Hello there, my name is PolishLynx. Welcome to Narcissu, a little iris. Chapter 9 begins. Sage. Let's see what this will be about. Once again, spots of snow dance down from the pure white sky. Amongst them, we finally arrived at the border. Well, to be precise, the border was hidden in the nearby forest. If we cross the river in front of us, we will be in the next country. I knew from there it would be difficult for our enemies to chase us.
見て。
ああ、どうやら本気で来たようだな。
The number of people greeting us was a bit larger than usual. The one we had let go the other day had apparently made it home safely, after which he'd presumably told everyone about me. Between the princess incident and the fact that I killed a local priest, it wasn't surprising to see this sort of response.
どうする気？
さあ、どうしたものかな。
Apparently they couldn't cross over either and want to see things decided right there no matter what. There were also archers and someone who looked like a priest. From this, they didn't plan on capturing, they were going to kill here. Even so, even if we did manage to get through this, it wasn't like a bright future was waiting.
なあ、姫様。
I thought for a bit and then spoke.
お前、麦を作る気はあるか？
麦？
そうだ、麦だ。
あなた、この状況で何を言ってるの？
She looked at me with a mystified expression. But in response, I lowered my voice more than usual and continued.
俺はあるのかと問うている。
それは、わからない。
わからないか。
She said only those words, and even they sounded like they'd been difficult to get out. But for now, it was enough.
では、もうお前は人を殺すな。それは俺がやろう。
Saying that, I threw my sword and stood up.
もしかして、死ぬ気？
ああ、死ぬな。どうやっても。
However, at least if I did this, then I might just be able to save her. I'm betting on the infinitely small chance that she can use the confusion caused by my attack to cross the border. Even if she crossed it into the next country, a surviving royal family member didn't have much hope for the future.
それが、あなたの考えた死に方。
ああ、悪くないだろ。
And ignoring her hesitation to speak, I kept talking.
いいか？よく聞け。もうお前に敵などいない。だから、その手にくっついた剣は離せ。そしてこれからは、麦でも作って生きろ。
そんなこと、急に言われても。今まで10年も人殺ししかやってないのに。
いいや、お前ならまだやり直せ。
That's right, she's different from me. To be given merciless, horrific death suited to a killer, I didn't believe that ought to be her fate.
無理よ。人がそんな急に変われるわけないでしょ。
大丈夫だ。お前ならばまだ。
無理よ。どうせ私は人殺しを続けるの。そして、いつか誰かに殺されるだけの人生なの。だから、今あなたが死んだって、無駄死になのよ。
無駄死にか。そうかもな。
And with that, she fell silent. The snow had started to fall in an earnest now, and covered everything around us in white. It's not like I had a plan. I had been searching for a place to die after all. It might be meaningless death, but it still wasn't bad.
ああ、そうだ姫様。 死ぬ前に一つだけ言い忘れたことがある。
何よ、あなたの言うことなんて。
ヨハンだ。あなたじゃなく、俺の名はヨハンだ。じゃあ元気でな、姫様。
I turned on my heel, leaving her behind. Then I ran toward the force gathered by the border. Just by
こ
killing
の俺
me,
だけでも
it's
殺せば、
wrong.
それなりに収まりがつくはずだ。
There were so many cavalrymen, if we just hid for another few days, they would probably give up on their own. They couldn't just waste such a large force on such a trivial matter, especially for a country that just finished the war. But on the other hand, if neither side comes out, it will drag on. Even if we crossed the border, there was the chance mercenaries would hound us. Honestly, I had no idea if she would survive after this. I simply wanted her to stop killing people. I just didn't want her to wind up like myself. That was all. When I walked in front of the mounted soldiers, I spoke up to what seemed like the commander.
待たせたな。
女はどうした？一緒だったはずだろ。
ああ、姫様か。あいつは死んだ。
How's that sound?
あ？
見返りに無抵抗で殺されてやるぞ。
The knight's reaction seemed to betray that he considered it unacceptable, which of course it was.
さすがにこの数では死ぬ気でも無理か。
Get shot by the archers and be riddled with arrows and die, or get holes punched through me by the lances of the knights. Either one, a death fit for me. But at the very least, I'll buy enough time for her to get across the border. Looks like I've just grown tired of waiting. Or perhaps this way of dying is what he finally came up with and prepared for me.
まあいい。どうせ死ぬ気で戦うだけのこと。
Making my peace, I put my hand on my sword.
ちょっと待て。
The one who cut in was the unfamiliar priest, who was probably sent from the church to accompany them. He peered at my face while approaching.
それよりお前、アスガードのものではないのか？
いや違う。人違いだ。
In an instant, I firmly denied it.
だが、その顔には見覚えがあるぞ。そう、確かヨハンだ。以前教会からも名誉騎士に推薦されたことがあったろう。
And when he said that, he gave the commander a signal. It was an order for the archers aiming at me to hold fire.
ヨハン、今までどこに行っていたのだ？教会も探していたのだぞ。
人違い。そういうことにしましょう、司祭。
While answering, I threw my sword away. Either way, they can't come back empty-handed. An escaped princess or the killer of a clergyman. Either way, things aren't going to calm down unless someone dies. So to the archers who had been ordered to wait, I gave a great shout.
探求！長球！
And while clapping my hands, I gave them orders. It meant for them to draw their bows again. Next, I waved my right hand twice in a circle, raised my elbow and ordered them to aim. Finally, slowly, I pointed my finger at myself, meaning I was the target.
なあ、司祭。だからあいつも死んだ。それでいいだろ。
Of course, even with this, I didn't think she would be safe forever. No matter what, you couldn't escape the fate you were born with. But she would be fine for a while. At least, she should have made it across the border even as I was doing this.
これが俺の条件だが。どうだ、司祭。
いいだろう。理由はわからぬが、お前ほどの者が言うのならな。
そうか。あんたがいい聖職者で助かるよ。
When I finished saying that, I thought I heard someone say release. It seemed like that very night just now. It didn't really hurt. I just felt a brief sensation of heat. Nothing else, that was all there was. But really, to die riddled with arrows, he really gave me an uncreative way of dying. That's what I thought as the arrows struck me. And that bet. Looks like I lost. On the road back, when we were finally close to getting home to our country, the last soldier finally died. To be exact, his injured leg became useless, and I dealt the killing blow. In the end, out of the close to 100 soldiers that campaigned, I was the only one that survived. I don't really have plans on bleeding God, but I recalled my sister's words, how I was kept alive and protected by an invisible power. I thought it was ridiculous, but here I was still alive, even after I'd slaughtered those people praying so fervently. If there were a god around, then for this killer, he might prepare a pitiful, merciless, pathetic death. But despite that thinking, my status will probably increase. As a tool for the Archbishop's use, of course. By now, he should have learned about how, along with the deacon, the others in the church had died. And if I were to believe the deacon's words, then he should be throwing his hands up in joy right now, about now. But for me to be recommended to be an honored knight, there was nothing I could do but laugh. That's how bad a joke that was. To be honest, I'm sick of dark-eyed clergy. I hurried to my hometown, avoiding the local church. I wanted to go home quickly. I just want to see my sister. The sun had long set, and finally I could see the village in the distance. Is that? Far away I could see a small red dot. There was also the smell of burning wood. Could bandits from somewhere have attacked again? This village is on the edges of the territory. Especially while we were out campaigning, it wasn't surprised that this would happen at some point. But even then, the bandits in the area wouldn't cause deaths. At the most, they would set fires and use that as a threat to continue surviving. They also understood things quite well. If they did too much damage to the village, the Viscount would send soldiers. They knew it that happened. They'd be truly exterminated. And despite that, I had a bad premonition. And the worse my premonitions are, the more likely they are to be right. With that bad premonition looming, I rushed to the village. As I gazed at the small red point far away, I recalled the day when I fled from home. Recalled the day when I had pulled my young brother along and carried my little sister. The entire village was filled with the smell of smoke. Perhaps there was still some fire left, since occasionally some flickers of red light would sway around. But only in a few places, just the fields and the pumps between them were burning. As I approached, it didn't seem to be that serious. So they really just set things on fire. I felt relief, but for some reason my general feeling of unease wouldn't go away. I rushed home, where my sister should be waiting. Finally, my home came into view. Thank goodness, it's fine. Confirming that the house hadn't been set on fire, I opened the door and searched for my sister. Penelope! Hey, where are you? I'm back! The house was so small I didn't even have to search. I knew my sister wasn't there. Couldn't she have evacuated to the church? Or worse, been abducted? No, that was unthinkable. That might happen to someone else, but no bandit would abduct my sister. As I thought that, a burnt smell tickled my nose. In this house, where nothing had been burned. Could she? My worry immediately wound up, and I quickly ran to the fields behind the house. Hey, hold on, are you okay? I found my sister sitting alone in the middle of the burnt field. My sister answered in a weak voice. She was most likely not mortally injured, but she had a few light burns. Did they set fire to it while we were working? If that were true, I'd kill them all. The Viscount didn't even have to be brought into this. I'd exterminate the bandits myself. But in opposition to my thoughts. Stop, but even so, they didn't stop, right? Oh, sorry, not them? I had no idea what my sister was saying, but I finally understood. My sister hadn't been asking the bandits who had set the fire. But God, she had seemed to be praying just before, so that made sense. Yeah. Saying that with soot on her face, my sister smiled like she always did. Prayer wouldn't put out the fire, exactly. That wasn't the power of God. The fire had just naturally burned itself out. I carried my injured sister to the house. The injuries weren't life-threatening, but they needed to be tended soon. That ribbon that my sister always used to tie her hair up while working in the fields. When I saw that it was slightly synced, I couldn't help but feel sad. 2 months later, in the autumn evening, a wind blew on an especially cold day. It gave the feeling that winter would soon be here. From that day on, my sister had been bedridden. The burns weren't serious, but because of them, she developed a fever. Day by day, her weakening, sick figure grew ever more similar to our departed brother. Fuck. After an examination by a physician, I had been told she might have only 1 month. God damn it! And in contrast to my sister's sickness, it seemed the church had decided to recommend that I be an honored knight. Again, I had apparently done great deeds during the crusade, but I had no memory of them. And I heard that Deacon also had a great big funeral at the church. How idiotic, it was truly a farce. I didn't have any intention of fighting for God or whatnot, and I didn't need those things. If it's a reward you're offering me, give me my healthy sister, bring back my dead brother. Even if you wanted to kill me now, I wouldn't complain. In that case, I will accept whatever horrific, merciless way of dying suitable for a killer like myself you can think of. Are you alright? I ran over to my sister, who was bent over. My sister had always been so bright and cheerful, and now she looked so similar to the brother that died years ago. It was heartbreaking. A weak voice came from the bed. What is it? Do you need something? At her question, my words reflexively stopped. When my sister was younger, I had been able to cover things up, but she was older now, and smarter. It's not something she should hear. At the least, for someone who believed a crusade was for God. Telling them it was nothing more than killing and plundering was useless. But if my sister was going to die like this, then perhaps it was time she heard. If there's a heaven, I want my sister to go there. And I hear that ignorant people go to hell. That's a reason enough for me. After thinking for a long time, I slowly opened my mouth. Very well, Penelope, I tell you everything. Sitting beside the bed and looking at my sister's face, I began to speak. About how we obeyed the deacon's orders and attacked some merchant's house, and about how we killed royalty and a cardinal at a small church, and about those fleeing and those chasing and killing, about those who were beheaded as they prayed. I told everything that happened in order, and without flinching despite the horrid situation, my sister quietly listened. But when I told her how I spared the nun at the church, oh fuck. So the church basically, I don't want to use a bad word, but let's use it, fucked up her mind a bit. Suddenly her voice quavered. I couldn't believe my ears. Not only was my sister criticizing me for letting the nun go, she was urging me to go back and kill more. And yet her eyes were direct and clear. Not dark like mine or the deacon's, emphatically direct. I cut him down. The body is either under rubble or eaten by wild dogs. My sister raised herself up from the bed as she whispered that. Hey, don't force people to get up. Nope. What are you babbling about right now? Cause. Oh my god, seriously. And with body withered by this, my sister started to walk outside. In a half days I followed. I wanted to believe that her high fever had made her take leave of her senses. But here her clear eyes told me that wasn't the case. What should I do here? Since there was nothing to be done to save her, should I fulfill her wish? It was a day when the falling snow felt especially cold. The stars faced into the darkness, and in their place fell little wings of white. Occasionally it would fall more heavily and even begin to collect on us. I was carrying my sister on my back, and once again we were handed to that place. Once before my sister's body had grown much heavier, but because of the disease now she was heartbreakingly light. Can you see it, Penelope?
はい。あそこにいるのですね。
Penelope or Penelope? I'm not sure. Yeah. There was the church where I had left the sister. Most likely she was still there. With my sister still on my back, I knocked on the entrance of the church.
あなたは以前の騎士の方。
Apparently remembering me, the priest greeted me politely. I have a need for that sister from before. Please call her. Yeah.
少々お待ちください。
And in a short while, the familiar face came to replace the priest.
あなたは、ヨハン様。
Seeing me, the sister looked happy. It had been a number of months, but it seemed she had been living well.
どうしたのですか？こんな夜更けに。
It's not pressing. Saying that, I put my hand on my sword. Seriously? With just that short scream, she was covered in blood. The red-black line that even touched my feet became a puddle. Like I told you, I'm just a killer. The person who had once called me a saint had died. Died without even a chance to pray. Seriously, man, why? Is this good enough to... Are you kidding me right now?
はい。この者の魂も救済されることでしょう。
God damn it. Yeah. 2 days later, we finally came to that church, more precisely the ruins of the church. There the pure white snow continued to fall from the sky. It coated the ground, thinly coloring it white in some places. It had already been 2 months, but even now it was still destroyed. Along the roads we still found the bodies of soldiers from the previous war left lying around. The body of the gallant knight from before was still lying at the entrance of the church.
この辺りですか？
My sister asked in a weak voice. It was around here that I cut down the deacon. And I looked around. For some reason I could see a large gathering of people digging in the graveyard. Just what are they doing? Becoming curious, I approached with my sister on my back. And when I did, I saw that many graves had been dug up and a number of bodies were laid along the road. From those who had died very recently to those that had begun to decompose, there were even some that had become bones. And when I looked to see what they were doing to the dead bodies they dug up, they tied crosses to them and set them on fire. They were actually setting fire to death? I couldn't believe my eyes. Occasionally I have seen prisoners burned. It was never a pleasant fare, but I had accepted that it was part of war. But I'd never have imagined they'd go so far as to dig up the buried dead. And yet the ones who were setting fire never had dark eyes. They didn't seem to be doing evil, nor did they appear to be engaging in any sort of dark ceremony. Every one of them had clear eyes and were watching. When even a killer like myself considering it appalling, I was shocked at how they dealt with these heretics in such a thoroughly heartless way. And fearfully, I turned my eyes towards my sister on my back. I felt I shouldn't look at her face. I felt that it was something I shouldn't see. My very own premonitions were telling me that it was something bad. And yet, somewhere in my heart I was hoping that she was making a sad face, that my sister wouldn't calmly watch such a horrid thing. That's what I hoped. And yet, that face was smiling. Gaunt from disease, with a frail body, her lips were at ease.
きっとあの者の魂も救われたことでしょう。
Told you, funked up by church. She said that with satisfied murmur. My bright, cheerful sister, who for some reason loved work in the field, She smiled with clear eyes. I quietly set my sister down, and from my leather bag I took out that hair ribbon. It was burnt and salty, but it had been a beautiful color. Now it should still be a beautiful color. Penelope put this on.
これは畑作業の時の。でもこのような神聖な場では。
It's a request from your brother. Please put it on. With a slightly puzzled expression, my sister did as I asked.
これでいい？
Yeah, and next. Smile for me.
どうしたの？ヨハン兄さん。
Saying that, she smiled for me. With arms full of wet, spinning innocently. Her long, beautiful hair tied up, almost whining happily. The smile was right there. I just... Alright, I'm a bit in a shock right now about what he has done. He seriously did that. Oh crap. Wanted her to have feelings like human being. And from then on, I was a living corpse. A hole opened up in my heart. God, if you or something like you exists, then I suppose I have fought for you before. And if that's the case, then grant me one reward. The ones that I kill, take them to heaven. Without fail. And for myself, give me a death suitable for a killer.
すでに国境も越えた。
When I crossed the river, I turned back to my former country. Did this mean that I was now free? That person called himself Johann. If I were to believe them, then that was his name. And from now on, I won't be pushed. I just had to never go back to the country.
なのに、どうしてだろう。
For some reason, my spirits wouldn't lighten. For some reason, I couldn't shake the feelings that something nagging had grown in my heart.
空は夜明け前が最も暗い。
Why was it, even when the dawn had come, that the sky was still dark? No matter how much time passed, it didn't seem like the dawn would come.
その時、かつて死んだはずの彼女が目を覚ました気がした。小さなイリスは考えた。
Living without any freedom, or anything at all. The world outside the small window was my everything. Even if I could see it from my eyes, I could never reach out my hand and touch it. The tense atmosphere, the white mist of breath, the shining stars, the night I continued to gaze at, was my entire world. But that had already ended. All I had to do was follow the straight road in front of me. I would never have to fear anyone. I didn't have to kill people anymore. Finally, I can live without having to kill myself. Even if it were a poor little cottage, there would be no rooms locked only from the outside. From now on, I could return to being myself and live. And yet,
彼女はそれを望まない。
she would not forgive just walking on like this. She shouted that there was an emergency. She let me know that she had been gravely injured. She was crying. Quickly, hurry, it must be closed or it will be too late. Blood was flowing, deeper, stronger than being cut on with a sword. Pumping, spurting, without end, it was wetting my footsteps. The snow just keeps oh.
雪だな。
Alone, I was gazing at the night sky. Lying on my back where I collapsed, the snow was slowly starting to pile on me. It looks like I'll be dying, even I could tell, my eyes were hazy. If they were going to just leave me here, at least chop off my head before going. if they have compassion for the night? Or is it that this was the death that he felt was suitable for me?
ねえ、ヨハン。
Hey? In my fading consciousness, I heard a familiar voice.
まだ生きてる。
いや、間もなく死ぬ。
My now hazy eyes saw her, which she should have already been crossed the border.
お前、どうして戻ってきた？
わからないわ。教えて、ヨハン。なぜこんなことを。
さあな。俺もよくわからん。
Honestly, I didn't know myself, whether it was for her or for myself.
でも、変じゃないの。誰だって自分の命が一番大切なのよ。人のために死ぬなんておかしいわ。
With her voice shaking and tears in her eyes, she asked me. However, it looks like she herself hadn't yet realized something. Something that even a fool like myself should be telling her.
なら、どうしてお前はここにいるんだ？俺など気にせず一人で逃げろと言っただろう。
それは。
それともお前こそ死にたかったのか？
At that question she fell silent and lowered her head. The occasional sound of the strong wind dominating this place. Looking up in the winter sky, the face of the moon peeked out from between bricks in the clouds. Breaks, god damn it, breaks in the clouds. And slowly... Even under the sound of the wind, I could hear sobbing.
別に死にはしないわ。ただこのままじゃ心に穴が開いてしまうのよ。このままじゃ夜が明けないのよ。
Burying her face in my chest, she collapsed in tears. Those tears that touched me felt very warm. Overflowing with tears, her eyes were clear. I'm sure that I hadn't wanted to die. I might have simply not wanted to live. It was probably the same for her. She didn't want to live. She simply didn't want to die.
大丈夫だ。もう夜は明けた。いや、今明けた。
Even now, she continued to cry against my chest. As I felt her warm tears, my consciousness began to fade.
これが俺の死に様か。
I waited and waited. I had wondered just what had been prepared, but this didn't feel so bad. Was he being unexpectedly kind? It was almost too much for this fool of a killer. But as a fool, in a fool's way, I needed to do the last one thing in 1,000.
なあ、よく聞いてくれ。今この場でお前は死んだのだ。
And then I offered the ribbon in my hand to her.
これは
受け取れ。賭けの景品だ。
It was a bit burned, but it was a beautiful red ribbon. It was for being cheerful, bright, gentle, for smiling happily. For that,
お前ならきっと大丈夫。
from now on, be reborn and live happily. Okay, epilogue. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. The winter ended, spring came, summer left, and autumn came again.
今年もたくさんの収穫に恵まれた。
I murmured that as I cradled stalks of wet in my arms. A land that gave 4 times the wet. Everything was as I had been told before.
こうして小さなイリスは死に、
My God. Great music. Really. Once again, great stories and great music in it. My God.
ペネロピへとなった。
Spending the days laughing cheerfully, not taking bread but making it. Now, never again taking out the sword that had once been stuck to her hand.
なのにふと彼女は目を覚ますことがある。
Like a newborn who had been fast asleep and suddenly started crying, she would always be shedding tears. Little Iris was always making a sad face. Why are you crying? Are you hurt somewhere? No.
きっと悲しい世の中だからなのだろう。
If there's such thing as a person's fate, it's to be born alone and to die alone. If that is the one single truth,
どうしてあの人は最後に笑ってみせたのだろう。
I didn't understand the reason for that yet. However, the one thing that would always stop her tears was that person's smile. Good night, Iris. With those words, as she was put to bed, a smile always appeared, and the hole in my heart would close.
眩しかった日のこと、そんな冬の日のこと。
That was so dang good. And you know what else was great? That was the first Narcissu with a bit of a happy end. At least for the, well, girl. Alright, Narcissu, a little Iris. That would be it for it. Hope you enjoyed it. However, of course, obviously, alright, let's go with afterward immediately. I thought about putting it later, but let's go. Hi, translator Randy out here. Forgive me my lack of drawing skills. Still better than mine. Thank you for playing the Little Iris chapter of the Narcissu Anthology. I've dreamed of translating this chapter since its original Japanese release in 2009, so I'm excited to bring this game to you today, 6 years later. Well, wait, Narcissu... Hey, something is not correct here. It's 2016. So 7 years. And I'm pretty sure Little Iris was actually released this year. Alright, never mind. Originally this story was released a few years after the original Narcissu 2 was released in Japan, as well as less than a year before the first English Narcissu 2 version was released. Yeah. By the way, while the characters and places are fictional, some events were based on the late 12th and early 13th century. Yeah. Well, actually, I had a feeling like that. It was similar to that from what I heard in history classes. Surprisingly, I remember something. While that period had many crusades, the Albigensian crusade was a major reference point. It was a tumultuous period to research. With this release, work will now focus on Narcissu 0. Going back to the modern world, it will explore the origins of the hospice and the rules. Oh, I can't wait for this. So I'll see you again in Narcissu 0, winter 2016. Ooh, so that's a lot of waiting. Hello, Tomokutaka here again. Thank you very much for playing a little Iris. God damn it, I keep messing this up. This time, the game is a complete side story for the Narcissu series. I noticed something like talking Narcissu's team, views upon life and death, and moving them to another time, another stage. I think it's not known to those overseas, but I have a feeling that it's very similar to a game Jiniro that I wrote a long time ago, in 2000. That was also less less of a game scenario and more of a novel or screenplay. Personally speaking, the novel seems to fit more, and I think I prefer it that way. About Christianity. Just in case, I'm going to write this to avoid confusion. I'm not someone who is criticizing Christianity or denying the existence of God. Okay, I'm a Christian, and I'm not denying the existence of God as well. But I don't like how the church worked. And, well, works as well, to be honest. But never mind! Even being a belief affirming our religion, so please do not misunderstand! Yeah, I might be it's more of Catholic, but I also have that feeling like if people believe in something that might exist, and well, whatever, we'll see after death what awaits. Actually, if it's kind of scary if nothing would be there, right? All right, let's go with the story. Actually, the religion in Japan is called Shinto. Well, a religion or a way of thinking or sense of morality. The Japanese people from long ago had a way of thinking that gods dwelled in all things. And so, unlike monotheistic religions, the idea of denying the existence of any god and any religion might not really exist. All that exists is a sense of thanks and fear of all things that can be seen by the eyes. 1993. This is the continuation of the previous 1980 in the afterword for Himeko's epilogue. This had also been cut out when Narcissu went to the PSP and has been re-recorded here. Oh yeah, that's true, Narcissu was released on PSP as well. God damn it, I don't have this game on PSP. And no, I could have played this a long time ago already. But I think it was only released in Japanese version. Probably. Maybe? I don't know. Never mind. It's 2016 this year, meaning that over 20 years have passed since then. Whoa. Thinking about it like this, there's a bit of deep emotion. Thank you so much for reading this far. Winter 2016, Tomo Kataoka. 1993. The year I was born as well, by the way. It was February, right at the height of the cold of winter. In the middle of a rare snowfall, I was driving home. In the back of was my mother. On the snowy highway, I was idly thinking that this was probably the final discharge from the hospital. There wouldn't be any more days of regularly going to and from home. When I thought that, there wasn't just sadness. I think there was some part somewhere that felt relieved. Caretaking exhaustion. It was a word that comes up often, but very difficult to explain. I think that only people who experienced it understand. A sudden death from accident only leaves sadness. It leaves a fragility, brevity, even a beauty in how life scatters like flower petals. Like in a movie, only the beautiful parts are taken to fade with time. However, when you have to take care of someone on the level of years, more than sadness, it's tiring. It's not from being heartless. Attending to the end of a life is never only beautiful things. I'm sure that everyone would at the times think that way. At the time of death, it's not just 100% sadness. Somewhere in their heart, a bit of relief, peace of mind is mixed in. There won't be any more spending the night in the smoking room or cot. No more midnight rides in the ambulance. And after years pass, when the hole in the heart is on the way to closing, they can finally think, I never ride an ambulance, to be honest. And I prefer to keep it that way. That it was a good thing that it had been a sickness. That is, it was good that they did see what they saw while in attendance. That it was good that, unlike an accident, it didn't happen out of sight. That in this unreliable, vague world that is equally unforgiving to everyone. Such a world gave this grace period to lessen regrets. They become able to be thankful for that. As someone who is living, they would thoroughly hate it. But this is what those who are left behind truly feel. The two sides shall never meet. In April, the funeral ended, and I said my thanks to the helpers who had helped all this time. I knew from when I was a kid that there did exist good adults in this world, but I first re-understood it upon becoming an adult myself. That good adults were rare, but did exist. Agreed. that there were many who sympathized with others, that even this world wasn't something you should so easily throw away. Public U Park. May, I was searching for work in Tokyo. The quickest thing I took was a part-time job as a security guard. But it was a slightly peculiar kind of security guard. It was a guard for a public park. At first I didn't understand it at all, but essentially it was just taking a walk while calling it patrol. And only just 4 times a day. The rest of the time you could just stay in the administrative office and zone out. My god, it would be a perfect work for someone who actually does videos and such. For YouTube, for example. Really, it would be freaking perfect. Record, walk, record, walk, record, walk, record, walk, and end of the job. And if you had the possibility to sleep there, plus, shower and kitchen appliances, damn, basically a home. Yeah, weird thinking, but whatever. The park itself you could run the perimeter in 10 minutes. 4 times a day was a piece of cake. Most likely the city just wanted to make it that someone wearing a security uniform was seen walking around regularly. And so my rather peculiar job began. I bought my commuter's rail ticket from Shinjuku to U Station right when the cherry blossoms were just barely hanging on. Nice. First, security guard. I was the first guard at the park, meaning there were no previous members or alternative ship members existed. Apparently 1 year earlier someone had injured themselves fishing and the city wanted to do something about it. And so the administration also were fumbling for what the job entailed. But, also making something like this, you produce a workplace, which is nice. And yeah. Okay, lost in thoughts for a second. Saying this is a bit awkward, but most of the workers were contractors and things just sort of stumbled to this point. So that was probably why the job was so simple. From 8 AM to 5 PM. So 13 hours. Whoa. With the actual work, just 40 minutes of walking, daily pay of 8,000 yen, and every Sunday at the end of the year, holidays off. No, I have to. 8,000 yen a day, so 40,000 yen per week, so 160,000 per month. That's not much. It's I don't remember how the currency worked from dollars to yen again. No, wait a minute. Other than walking, the work involved warning people fishing. The park's lake had banned lures, so I'd give a warning to the little kids who came to fish by bus. That's it. After that, there really wasn't anything to do, so I just was always sitting on a bench drawing manga. However, there were lots of homeless people. I had largely been instructed to basically ignore them, but occasionally I would give them warning if they started open fires. If they start a fire in front of a cardboard house about to be crushed by snow, I'd pretend I didn't see anything. I couldn't bring myself to give them a warning. There were many kinds of homeless people. There were the usual ones who claimed to be the former heads of big companies, those who had what appeared to be family visiting daily, to those who disappeared once daylight came. The majority of their stories were surprisingly cheerful, but I could also feel the loneliness coming from them putting on a brave face. I then noticed that there were people older than the homeless that would come here every day. Residents of the park. The first time I noticed this fact was about 1 week in. 2 or 3 people, I saw the same face every day. But when I looked closer, it wasn't 2 or 3 people. Many more were coming to the park almost every day. They ranged from the elderly to the young, men and women. And these people, every one of them were alone. They never gathered in a group, and I never saw them doing anything resembling speaking to another person. During the midday, these few people wouldn't be doing anything in particular and just hang around. At first I thought they just had lots of free time. I thought that they were unemployed salesmen or housewives coming here to kill time. And you know what? It would make sense for this park if the hospital was that hospital, you know what hospital, with the 7th floor, was really close. From my point of view, they weren't hindering my work or anything, so I didn't worry much and ignored them. But after 1 or 2 months passed, I suddenly had a thought, became convinced. Normally housewives, salarymen, and even the elderly certainly do come to the park often, but the people I was thinking about seemed to mark a single line separate from those. The majority would go home in the evening, but on the next day would come again and spend the whole day at the park. Coming alone, spending time alone, living alone. They'd pass their time in the park like this almost daily. So I poked fun at them, naming them residents of the park. So one day, despite both sides ignoring each other up until now, on a whim I said hello. Good morning. Eh? Yes. The middle-aged man just was surprised for an instant. From that day onward, I'd speak to a number of the other residents in a similar way. I'm sure there wasn't any deep meaning behind it. July again today had a pure white rainy sky. Snow is falling in the animation. I sat on the park bench and made a little chit chat. I was talking to one of the residents who came here every day. At some point, the time I would up speaking like this to the resident increased. And I heard many things. No, I was made to hear many things. These people were physically ill and so repeatedly admitted to and discharged from hospitals. Or they were mentally ill and so repeatedly admitted to and discharged from hospitals. Either way, they were people who had no place at home nor in the hospital. But it was because they had it wasn't because they had any unfortunate experiences with their family or doctors that they had no place to be. That's what I sensed. In fact, it felt like they were being considerate of their family. These people felt sorry towards the family, more than the families themselves were feeling. And so, they became residents of the park. If they had any other place to go, then they wouldn't come here every day. May. Wasn't it July? June or July it was, a second ago. Summer was building up. By this time, these people had gone from making small talk to telling me many things. I think that this was all just a coincidence. They had rejected all others on their own, and wouldn't have contact with others. Alright, that's basically the rule on the 7th floor, so yeah, that's definitely what it is about. Into the one place that they belonged in came, for the first time, as security guard, an intruder. Me. Someone that no matter how much they hated it, they were forced to meet me every day. And yet, I wasn't a doctor, nor family, nor even a friend. I was nothing more than a security guard walking around every day. Since I was wearing a uniform, they were able to feel a certain amount of security. My own friendly personality might have had some effect also. It was because of all these coincidences happening that I think they opened up their hearts and spoke to me. So, no, they might not have spoken to me. Probably the truth was that they wanted it to be heard. They said that they couldn't say their true feelings to family, doctors, counselors. They said that they especially couldn't tell their families out of consideration for them. It seemed there were good doctors and counselors in the mix, but of course there were those who said they did it because it was their job. Of course, not even I thought that these words applied to everyone. However, for people who couldn't find a place to go besides a public park, I thought this might be their true feelings. Mr. O. He was a middle-aged man, twice my age, and always spoke like he was an older brother to me. Despite having lung cancer, he was always smoking cigarettes, and over time he told me his life story. Just once I sat on a park bench with him after work and we drank. While drunkenly swaying, he suddenly started shouting angry. He was normally a reasonable person, and it was the first time I saw him angry. His anger wasn't at something, or someone. If I had to say, it was probably either at his own unsalvageable body, or perhaps at the God who has denied him a future. After that, we kept talking on a beach. We kept talking on a beach by the Arakawa River until morning. I think what they meant is actually a bench, but never mind. His way of speaking went from anger to tears, and finally coming to acceptance. His figure and the words he spoke were something that words just can't fully describe. Out of all the people that I've seen go, he was the only one that I could really call having accepted things. Only he knew what would come after, in the future. Already, he had an air about him that wasn't human. 3 days later, he went from being a resident of the park to a resident of the 7th floor. We exchanged cell phone numbers, promising to drink together again, but that chance never came. Even now, I can't forget his face at his funeral. And after that, I saw a number of residents go. People who were physically ill went to the 7th floor. People who were mentally ill committed suicide. The place we would say goodbye was the plaza at the entrance to the park. I'd wave my hand and say farewell. I couldn't go any further. Once I crossed that point, I'd become an individual. That was why I couldn't visit. Couldn't go to the 7th floor. If we were to meet again, it would be at that person's funeral. The reason is that the one they told their honest feelings to wasn't me. Coincidence piled up upon coincidences. Coincidences piled up upon coincidences. Just by chance, I was there. Neither a poison nor a medicine. I had to be nothing other than just a security guard. November, Miss K. It was around when the wind had completely turned chilly. There was a girl named Miss K who I spoke to often. She did talk to me about many things. Since I was always drawing manga, she would watch that and show happiness. However, as she laughed, there would be a large scar on her neck. It's something like what you'd hear about wrist cutting. This was clearly the mark of her really trying to die and somehow failing. One day, sitting on the park bench, I asked, "Have you ever thought, why only me?" And she thought for a while at that question. "I have, but nothing can be done, even if you think about it." Saying that, she smiled. The large scar that I could see on her neck wrenched at my heart. That night, we lit fireworks in the corner of the park. It started with the small fireworks set that she brought over. There was small, god damn it, what am I saying? There was smell of gunpowder, white smoke, and you could faintly see the winter constellations. The canned juice from the vending machine was cold and tasty. Suddenly I remembered the fireworks very long ago on the two-colored beach. Eventually, when the last stick of firework was ending, she murmured, "These words, it's not fair, right?" What was there wasn't her usual cheerful face, despite how she had laughed even when her stomach cancer had spread. And then she told me her life story up until now. By the time she finished, she was crying. And the reason for those tears? Grief over the helplessness that mankind had. A strong curse for this world's callousness. And yet, in the same amount, prayers of happiness for those who were close. As the witness, I had probably been trusted with a small wish. Eventually, we came to the park's entrance and parted like we always did, waving hands. For some reason, her face was smiling. 1 week later, she committed suicide. I think that she most likely didn't write many details in her suicide note. However, even if no one in the world knew, I knew. She said that she didn't want to burden her family. She told me that, no matter what, to tell no one else. She had surmised that if her family knew, they would just be saddened all the more. However, even knowing that, despite that, I think she needed to tell someone. There are other things that I know. Those who are prepared to die, no matter how much they steal themselves and act accepting. They are lonely, but they can't get close, even more so to people close to them. Honestly, they want someone to hear their voice, want to leave behind proof. In truth, I knew that they wished that I would spread those tales. Whoa, that's that place that close to the job. The last day of the following March, when the cherry trees were approaching full bloom, at the park entrance this time it was my turn to be seen off. One of the residents waved their hand at me, so I waved my hand back in the same fashion. In front of me was Saikyo Line Station entrance. I didn't turn around. On that very day, the security guard system at the public park was cancelled. It seemed to simply be related to the city's budget. Apparently I was the first and last security guard. Sucks. Many coincidences came together. And the security guard wound up being the witness to a number of people by chance. 7 years later, the now unemployed security guard wound up becoming a humble writer. Even now, I wonder, does that park still have residents? Even now, do they come to the park every day and sit alone on the benches? But now, there wasn't any security guard there. The one witness that had been born of happenstance is no longer there. For the residents of the park, their only choices were the 7th floor or suicide. Which of those is correct? I didn't know. Most likely, there wasn't a correct answer. However, if possible, I'd want them to smile for those who were close. That's what a former security guard who had become a witness believes. The year 1993 in the public U Park. Alright, well, that is basically the end for our road through Narcissu and Little Iris, and also afterwards /1993. Well, it was a very enjoyable story, I must say. As always, a great job. Well, Narcissu still stays my top game when it comes to novels, visual or kinetic, well basically novels, and yeah. It's true, this one didn't really bring tears to me, but still it was good. Alright, let's end it here. I will keep it in one episode actually, 1 hour long. Why not? I keep doing this lately. So yeah, for now, this is the end. Hope you enjoyed it, and well, we are waiting for Narcissu 0, because I think that's the one that will come next. So hope you enjoyed it, and see you in Narcissu 0. And meanwhile, you are of course free to check out other videos if you are if you are bored. I'm the boring one. Alright, well, see ya! Bye bye!